Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, October the 30th, and it's a reasonably pleasant day, so we're back in the sunroom for filming. The sun hasn't been out a lot, so it's only recently come out and made the room warm enough to film out here. Sort of this morning at about 9:30 I was in here and going like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna happen today, which is a little disappointing because in the previous days it had been lovely and sunshiny, and of course as soon as the sun is fully out, this room is lovely. So you know, there were days where it was like in the low 70s in here, no heater on, no nothing, just, you know, sun warming up the room. It was lovely. Anyway, so it's not too bad. It's a little bit overcast, so we'll see how it goes. Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch over the coming months how many videos get filmed out here. This is a channel about cross stitching and the stitching that I've done over the past week. So if you're a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. And if you are a returning viewer, as always, thanks for coming back and catching up on my stitching journey. With that, having a moment going, where did the piece of paper go? I had a piece of paper with all the questions on it. I don't know where it went. Huh. Oh, it's beside me. It fell down beside the cushion. Like I had it. Okay, so a couple from, one from a couple weeks ago that I've neglected getting back to. Leah asked me a question because she had watched one of the videos where I had used the clamps from the Handy Clamp on my American Dream scroll rods, and they fit. So she was wondering where to get just the replacement clamps because she doesn't need the bars. So, and Leah, she also sent an email as well, so I will be following up on that. So I reached out to Jennifer at Embroidery Marketplace here in Calgary. She's the only one that I know of that has Handy Clamp products on her website. Now, the products that she has on her website are standard sort of scroll frames where you get the rods plus the sidebars. And the rods, of course, come with the clamps. So she didn't have anything on replacement clamps. But I did reach out to her and ask her, and she said she didn't know, like she hadn't seen anything where that was like a stock product, but she was absolutely willing to reach out to her supplier to see if she could just get replacement clamps. And then, of course, she asked me what size of scroll rod was I looking for, and of course I had no idea. So Leah, I will put Jennifer's contact information below. So it's Jennifer at Embroidery Marketplace here in Calgary. She has an online shop, but just email her with what you're looking for. Don't forget that so unlike like American Dream Products scroll rods, where there are, you know, you can get them in a myriad of sizes, the Handy Clamp scroll rods only come in select sizes. Right, so you can't get them in every size. American Dream Products has far more sizes of scroll rods available than Handy Clamp does. So you need to make sure that sort of within that context, seeing which replacement clamps are the ones that you're looking for. So Jennifer is more than happy to reach out to her supplier and see if they can just provide replacement clamps. You just need to send her an email clarifying which ones you'd be interested in. She thinks that they'll probably just do some one-off pricing for her. So that's my suggestion for that. So I haven't found anywhere it's just like, here's where to go to get replacement clamps. So sorry for taking so long to get back to you on that one. So Deb, the stocking stitcher, left me a comment on last week's video where she's made a note in her calendar for 5 years from now to check up on my stocking, because yes, the stocking is in my 5-year plan, but it is in 2027. I'm hoping it's going to stick. So anyway, I do want to get that stocking done. It's clearly not moving up at all, but anyway, it's the problem. You watch Deb the Traveling Stocking Stitcher and I just want to stitch a stocking. Okay. It's not K, it's Jay. Jay had a couple of comments. He's newer to the channel, and so he's catching up on the older videos. Well, there's at least something to occupy your time. He suggested a topic on stitchers' comfort and ergonomics, which is a great topic. I am not the person to be doing that one, so I am not, yeah. One, I don't feel like I have really good knowledge to impart to anyone about, you know, how to make sure that you've got good ergonomics while you're stitching and all that kind of stuff. And part of it had to do with the fact that he's experiencing neck and shoulder pain, and he is stitching even though he's stitching with a stand. So here are my 2 cents worth coming from someone who has no training in this topic at all. So take it with like the 2 cents grain of salt, and maybe just go, it's really fuzzy and all that kind of stuff. So one of the things is that I like many stitchers, and I'm certainly guilty of this myself a lot, is that we spend too much time sitting and stitching without any breaks for getting up. Pot, kettle, teacups, mugs, the whole kit and caboodle. That is me to a T. I tell myself regularly that I need to stand up and move and do something just to give yourself that break, and I don't do it, because what do? You go like, well, I'm just going to get one more length in, or if I just finish this color, as opposed to just saying, just take a break, take a few minutes break, stand up, move around. That helps things. Second of all, for neck and shoulder pain, I don't know what your stand is. One of the things that I find is making sure that the way you're positioning your piece doesn't have you hunching over. Although pot, kettle, whole thing again, right? I find myself doing that as well. So I do tend to have I do have a cushion here. So what I try to do is I try to have like sort of one of those, not a really big cushion, but a lumbar support, just to try to remind me to sit up straighter as I'm doing my thing. And I find that just having that, again, not like a big pillow behind me, but just a smaller pillow to support that lumbar region, does help me remind me that I need to be sitting up. So I don't have a lot of suggestions for you. I'm not the ergonomics queen. And one of the places I used to work, they were sending someone around to sort of do ergonomic desk assessments. And they were wanting to switch out my keyboard and my keyboard, mouse, and mouse pad, because, you know, so you shouldn't be sort of working like this. They wanted something else going on. And I was just like, I tried it on somebody else's computer before they got to be, and I was just like, I'm having none of it. And, you know, so I said to them, it's like, no, you're not replacing it. I'm not taking it. I'm not making any of those adjustments. And they're like, no, but you are experiencing pain. And I'm like, I'm not. Now, for me, I think part of that difference is I've had a lot of piano training, and I've played piano for hours and hours and hours and hours. So I think I've just, you know, anyway, it was interesting. They were like going, you have to be experiencing pain. And I'm like, I'm experiencing no pain, and you're not changing anything about any of that, because I'm having no pain and you're not causing me difficulties. So I'm not taking your ergonomic suggestions. Anyway, they didn't change it, but they weren't overly happy with my response. But anyway, so I am not the person to do ergonomics. If anybody's got any suggestions that they found helpful when they were experiencing neck or shoulder pain while working with a stand, feel free to throw those down in the comment section down below. Always happy to have people's suggestions on how to help, because pain is not good. He also made a suggestion about checking out Papillon Creations for free charts. And yes, I'm familiar with Papillon Creations. It was a great reminder, because I have not been on there in a while to check the status of their free charts, because I've certainly downloaded a number over the years. But thanks for the reminder, because I'm going to go back and have a check to see if I'm perhaps a little bit behind in the free charts. A couple of you had mentioned that you were thanking me for the reference for the Cliffside Tiles Sal. Yes, that's a great Sal. Cheryl, you're going to be getting an email from me on this topic. What do you think about printing some of those out in case we want to have people that are going to join into the library? There's a library story coming. Anyway, I'll send you an email. We'll chat. Several people commented on the snow. Some were going, the snow looks so pretty. The nature behind your house looks so great. One of you said, you know, like, the concept of snow is nice other than it makes, you know, the commute getting to work, you know, horrible, which is absolutely true. And someone made a comment about wildlife, and we are getting a lot of wildlife. So I live in Canada. I'm in Alberta, just to the east of the Rocky Mountains. The area that I'm in, we've been having a lot of wildlife this year. It is not uncommon for there to be deer. And in fact, I was walking to pick up a package that I needed to sign for at the post office. You know, it was around sunset time. I just sort of like, I'd gotten the notice and I was, you know, just going to walk over to the post office, and, you know, there was a buck standing in the park behind me, monitoring me as I came up the sidewalk and was walking through the park. You know, I didn't have any interaction with the deer, but yeah, a lot of deer. It's not uncommon for there to be deer. I had someone who was giving me a ride home from work one day, and he drove into my driveway and was like, oh my goodness, you have to stay here, because there were 6 deer in my front yard. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's deer. He's like, no, but they will attack. And I'm like going, it's deer. As long as I'm not making sudden horrendous moves and charging at them, they're going to do nothing. Anyway, so he was quite afraid for my safety. I still got out of the truck and walked into my house. You know, I will say, you know, I'm calling it the leader deer was monitoring me as I was making my walk into the house. But, you know, again, I wasn't running at them or doing anything weird. They were having a nice little chow down on the yard in front. Anyway, safely got into the house, nothing. So not uncommon for there to be deer in my area. I always laugh when I'm going to the train station, if I'm following deer to get to the train. More interestingly, recently, about a 10-minute drive away from me, they actually trapped a number of bears this week. So there was a lot of there are 4 bears in the residential area. Last I heard, 3 of them had been caught. They were still looking for the 4th one. So I haven't seen the bears. Bears, that's a whole other kettle of fish. Deer, fine. We've had some bobcats, and anyway. So yeah, there is a lot of wildlife that can be found. Anyway, let's talk about a little bit about some news in the stitching world that I just want to alert you to. So a couple of things. Mill Hill Magnifica beads. If you have any charts that call for those, if you don't have them and you are really wanting to have the actual Magnifica beads, you should probably get on that right away. Magnifica beads are being discontinued. I know about this because I was looking at something where I was looking at a chart, it called for Magnifica. I can't find the Magnificas that I need. Now, I talked to the Stitching Corner. They've got Delica beads out there. They've got a substitute. They've put a bag set aside. You know, you can get replacements in the land of Delicas, but some people want to make sure that they use the called for products that, you know, the designer had in mind. So if you've got any charts that have Magnifica beads, now is the time to try and locate those, because those are being discontinued. You can check physical brick and mortars. They might have some still left in stock. If there's any left at Witchelt still to be ordered, you can look and see at the witchelt.com website. If the numbers are still on there, they still have some in stock. Other than that, you'll need to find alternate options to replace Magnifica beads. So Magnifica bead, the bead numbers are a 5-digit number starting with a 1. So like 10001, 10007, those are sort of the Magnifica ranges. Number 2, John James Petite Needles. If you are a John James Petite Needles, these, so it's interesting. I've checked in with several sources. 2 of my sources have said that they've officially been discontinued. Right now, the Stitching Corner does have a distributor that still has some in stock, and they have told the owners of the Stitching Corner that they have not officially been notified that the 26s and 28s have been discontinued. So Janice at Traditional Stitches, Janet Embroidery Marketplace, both have said that they're discontinued. But this one distributor the Stitching Corner deals with still has some in stock. So not surprisingly, I've put in a big order because these are my favorite. I love stitching with a petite needle. If you are a John James Petite Needle fan, and I've did a little bit of looking online, and yeah, I can't really find anybody who's got any of these left in stock. If you are looking for some, right now, the only place that I know that you can place an order and potentially get some of them, I don't know, you know, depending on how many you're ordering, you know, how much is left in stock at this one distributor. So the only place I know where you can get them is the Stitching Corner located in Cochrane, Alberta. I will put their contact information down below. They have an email, so they don't have an online ordering portal. You need to either call the store or send them an email about these. So 24s have been discontinued. They can't get those. They can still get 26 and 28 John James Petites, but probably for not much longer. The distributor did say, while they have not officially been notified that they are discontinued, they are expecting that to be coming imminently. So, like I say, I've already put an order in because I need to bulk up on these, because these are, I need a petite needle. All right. I did have one other question. We'll get to that once I get a prop up here to talk about it. With that, let's get into my stitching. So what did I work on this week? So not surprisingly, as always, we're starting off with the Sampler of Stitches by the Drawn Thread, which is a series of 9 charts that I am doing as a stitch along with Sarah the Stitchin' Mommy, who's also on YouTube. And my goal last week was to finish off the X, which would be a chart finish. I did bring, here's chart number 8, and it was just this part down here that was my goal for last week. Looking at her going, man, that, anyway, all right, we'll juggle a couple of things. So how did I do? Well, not surprisingly, given that it was a row of X's that were stitched entirely with cross stitches, no specialty stitches at all, I did just fine. So I got my X's all completed. My light's going on me. Da, da, da. Anyway, it'll come out. It's coming out here. Anyway, so yeah, very pleased with how that's coming along. Yeah, so chart number 8 completed. So all I have left to do is one more chart. We are on track for having this entire piece completed by the end of the year. And somebody did leave a comment saying, like, I can't wait. They were waiting for me to finish it so I could unravel the whole thing and show the whole thing, which absolutely will be coming. There's not a lot finished, so there's like probably one full roll up here. So anyway, so yeah, so tonight's project, we will be starting part 9. So I will be working on Y. My goal for tonight is to do the letter Y and this specialty stitch here, which is called the Y stitch. that's my goal for this week, which means the following week I would try to finish the Y off with these flowers over here. But this week I'm just going to try to get that done. Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. As always, I've said this before, I'll say it again, I'm very grateful to Sarah for coming up with this stitch along idea, because it's working out really well for me. This series of charts, while I really, really like them, they would not have appeared in my 5-year plan if it had not been for the stitch along with Sarah. So I'm very, very grateful to her for that idea, and having the big comment saying, anybody want to stitch this with me? And I went, me, 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 me. All right. Yes, so because I had a chart finish, not a project finish, but a chart finish, I decided I should do, that I should do a reward, right? Full chart finish, reward. So I was going to put in another instrument on my Musical Christmas. This is Musical Christmas by Artistic Needle. This is an out of print chart. I am stitching this on 28 count Christmas Shenandoah linen by Zweigart. The linen has also been discontinued. And so I did the trumpet. I did trumpet number 1. So there's 4 of the squares. So the trumpet, the harp, the trombone, and the drum. That's side number 1. Side number 2, of course, only has the harp, the trombone, and the drum. So next reward I come up with will be trumpet number 2, which will go in this square. And then after that, I only have, so I technically have 2 squares left to go. So again, I started this in August unexpectedly. This was not in the plan for this year at all. But I'm really glad I added it in. It's, you know, one of these instruments gets knocked out easily in an evening. You know, so this was 276 stitches, 3 different colors, easy peasy. So yeah, they're a quick stitch, which is great. So yeah, so that was Musical Christmas. I worked on my Tapestry of Life. I did not get my goal this week accomplished on Tapestry of Life, so it's going to get worked on some more. I've decided it's not going to go away until I get this goal accomplished. So, what did I get done? All right, so I was working on trying to fill in these borders. So the words still haven't gone in because that's the last thing I'm going to do. So believe it or not, I have been making steady progress on these. They're still not done. I've got 2 colors left to finish. So both in the sides and sort of these little bit of connecting bits at the top, alternating top and bottom. So you can see that they're not connected yet. That's because they're missing 2 stitches on each side, two stitches in 2 different colors, of course. So, you know, typical Stoney Creek. So I've decided this isn't going to go away until I actually get this section done. I'm going to keep plugging away at it, and yeah, I need all of this section to the border completed, and then it's going to go away. So, one of the interesting things, so I had mentioned last week that I was going to be attending the Honen's piano competition finals this week, which I did, which was very interesting. In case any of you are interested, the gentleman who won, Ilya Ovchenko, is Ukrainian. I will say of the 3 finalists, he was my number 2. I didn't actually think he was going to win, but and it's not that I think he didn't deserve to win. He was my solid number 2. The person that I had as number 3, like if she had won, I think that I would have been a little more, how did that happen? Anyway, I thought Sasha should win, but anyway, Ilya won, so congratulations, Ilya. You're on your way to a very fabulous classical pianist career. Anyway, so was there Thursday night. Friday night was the finals where they announced the winner, and that was a very late night, so I didn't get home, because I did stay for the announcement, so I didn't get home until 12:30. So I had my second day of no stitching. So I've actually had two days this month of no stitching. But so when they do this, you know, they play their pieces and then the judges go off to deliberate. They do announce that night. So I was planning on staying. There are a lot of people who don't bother staying. They're just like, it's going to be too late. Who knows how long the judges are going to take to come up with their decision, and I'm not waiting around for this. So I was willing to wait for a while. I brought a project. I brought, so I put Tapestry of Life into Markup RXP over the course of the last week, and what I had taken with me was, now that it was in Markup RXP, I was transferring my highlighting from the paper copy into Markup RXP, and that was actually turned out to be a surprisingly useful exercise, because I had discovered, I thought that these parts here were entirely stitched. They're not. I'm missing a color. I'm missing a color. So I'm really grateful that I actually put it into Markup RXP and did that whole exercise, because otherwise I would have done everything else and went, this part's done. I probably never would have noticed I was missing a color there. So I'm really glad I put it in, because now I know I still have more work to do. There's another color missing in there, so I need to get that done. Anyway, upside is that Markup RXP now tells me exactly how many stitches I have left to stitch. I have not, all of the backstitched words I have erased. They are not counted as stitches in Markup RXP. Those are easy to track. It's really everything here, all of sort of like regular full cross stitches and stuff like that. That's what I've got set up in Markup RXP. So this is going to stay out until I get this section down here to this gray part done. There's still more to do anyway. Okay, so one of the questions I got was, this was on the back. Somebody had asked me, how was I keeping my needle threader on my piece? Because it was on one of my pieces last week. Probably should have left the needle on the back. So here's how I do it. So yeah, I've got a needle minder, but I will say the type of needle minder is important. So I'm choosing to do it on this piece because this one is a zappy dot, and it stays on quite nicely. The one over here is the one from My Big Toe, and while it does stay, it's more at risk and has been known to fall off. The other thing that you can do, you know, depending on what your needle minder is sometimes I have been known to reverse them. Yeah, Sampler Stitches has that, where instead of having the pretty part on the top, I just have the magnet, because if it's the magnet, it will stay, no problem, right? So that's that's the other option. If you want the pretty and it stays, usually I'm only find that Zappy Dots are able to pull that off. Otherwise, just reverse it and have the magnet, and that will hold it. Now, the brand of this particular needle threader is going to be important as well. So you can find ones that look exactly like this, but they are not, whatever metal they're using for it, it's not magnetic. So the ones that I have are Loran, Loran needle threaders. Now you can find ones that look like this that are cheaper. Those are the ones that I find do not stick to the magnets. So that's, so for me, it's worth more to me to have the ones that will stick to my needle minders. So I get the Loran ones. So that's how I get those working. I was gonna say, so here's same thing, like you can see it on here, right? So I still have two needle minders. One is faced forward, one is faced the other way. It's probably because I was trying to put the needle minder, and whichever one this was, it adheres better to the straight up magnet part as opposed to the pretty cover. So it's not unusual for me to have two needle minders on a project. One facing forward, one facing reverse. And then somebody, it might have been the same person who was asking me a question about leaving my needles on projects. So while I'm actively working on them, like I leave needles on these needle minders while I'm working on the projects. You know, like I say, when I'm done stitching my piece, when I achieve my goal here and this is going away, but the needle minders will come off the fabric. The needles will come off the fabric before I put it away. I don't leave them on, you know, when they're going away, clearly for some amount of time. While they're actively being worked on, I'm totally fine leaving my needle minders, needle threaders on my pieces because they're being actively worked on. So, oops. You know, I also do need to highlight that I live in an area where the humidity is very low. If I lived in a high humidity place, I might be a little more sensitive about leaving them out. I don't know, because I've never lived in a high humidity place. I've only lived in low humidity climates. So for me, leaving them on, that's not going to be a problem. Now again, I wouldn't leave them on there long term. But there you go. Any other questions on that? Leave them down in the comment section down below. All right. I also worked on my Chatelaine Designs Tiny Marie Antoinette Gate. Because I'm behind, I feel like everybody who's working on this is farther ahead than me. So I had to work late and get a bunch accomplished. And I did that. So there's where I'm at now. What did I get done this week is I got all of this interior completed as far as a regular cross stitch perspective. So everything that I have left to do on this piece, so all of the regular cross stitches are done. What I have left to do is the specialty stitches in the borders and all of the beading. Other than that, everything got done. And I thought you would be interested because, you know, one of the things that I had put off the previous time I'd worked on it was coming up with the green and what I was going to do about the green. So if you will recall, this is the Caron Waterlilies Seagrass. Let's just do this. Seagrass, which was one of the called for colors. And I did have this, but this is the skein that belongs with my polar mandala. And my answer was I really wasn't willing to break into it for this small little piece. And really, the amount that was needed was really, really little. What I pulled from my stash, so it's old, Needle Necessities. So Needle Necessities is now known as Threadworks because there was an ownership change. There is a conversion list to get from Needle Necessities numbers to Threadworks numbers. But I pulled Needle Necessities number 138. I felt that was fabulously close. Didn't have quite, it's hard to see, didn't have quite as much variegation as the Seagrass, but I felt it, you know, there still was some variegation and I felt it was close enough. So I'm very happy with my choice. So Needle Necessities 168 was my replacement for Caron Waterlilies Seagrass. It came from my stash. I literally needed, so Needle Necessity, the lengths are pre-cut for you like with Gentle Arts. I just needed 2 strands. One length was enough to do everything in that color on this piece. So yeah, so a very little amount required. But yeah, so I felt like I got that accomplished. So this week on Wednesday, this will come out and we'll get started on the specialty stitches, and I'm hoping to make a start on the beading. I don't know that I'm going to get all the beads done, but we'll make a start on that. So that one's coming along. I think it's this one. Yes, because this piece is so small, I don't usually leave a needle minder on it, and I'm not putting, because the piece I've cut is also so small, I'm working on it in hand. I'm leaving this needle in. Again, it's actively being worked on. It's not going to be out for much longer. And given the humidity where I am, I'm fine leaving this needle in this piece for the moment. Again, if it were going away for, you know, it's not coming out for months and months, I would absolutely not leave this needle, but because it's coming out again this week, I'm fine leaving it in for the short term. So that is my Chatelaine Designs Tiny Marie Antoinette Gate. Sorry, I need to put the Seagrass in. And then when I'm cleaning up after this video, man, that needs to go back in with Polar Mandala. Wow, that lighting is really not going well. It is interesting watching the sun as we move through the seasons, because I'm used to the sun setting sort of more over here than over there. So, and of course we've got the time change coming and 27 other things happening. So anyway, believe it or not, there's 2 more pieces to go. So I also did a little bit of work on Art to Heart Bittersweet Pumpkins. This is my new start for this month. Man, that shouldn't have taken that. Should have been that hard to come up with that word. I only got a little bit done on this one. So what did I get accomplished? So I finished all of the blue here and the blue leaves. Again, with the light where we're at right now, it's hard to tell. And I got more worked into the pumpkin. I've still got more to do on this white pumpkin to get my 2 lengths of thread in before I do another color. I am hoping to work on this tonight after I get that bit of Y done, so that I can get that finished and do one more color over here, hopefully between tonight and tomorrow night, because this will go away once we get into November. So I just want to get a little bit more done on this. My real goal is, so as of right now, I'm just over 20% of the way done this piece. Yeah, it's a big one. So I'm 20% of the way through this. I'm hoping before this goes away on November the 1st that I will have hit 25 So I'm hoping to get 5% more done between tonight and tomorrow night. Now, it's probably going to be doable because they're such big blocks of color. So I will finish getting in my 2 sets of lengths in on the white, and then depending on how many stitches I have left to get to the 25%, that will determine which of the next colors I work. Technically, this white section here is the same white, but I want to leave that for a bit, so I'm probably going to head down towards one of the colors down here below the section I've already worked on. So hopefully between today and tomorrow, I can hit 25%. So that is Bittersweet Pumpkins by Art to Heart. And then the last piece I worked on was my library piece. So this is my StitchCon exclusive. You can purchase this chart, but it is only available through Keepsakes, and I will put the Keepsakes contact information down below. I'm generally only working on this on library days, but it's going to get worked on a little bit today as well. So what did I do at the library? Well, not a lot. So I finished the Keepsakes, and I did these stitches here, and I did all of this row of X's down here. So for a 3-hour window at the library, that's not a lot of stitching, which is not surprising because we tend to do a lot of chatting and looking at things and doing whatever. But I'm also hoping to haul this out over the next couple of days. I want to get this bus, so I want to get Cincinnati, the word Cincinnati in there, and I want to get the bus done. Now I'm not stitching this bus because this is not what the stitchy bus actually looks like. So someone who was working on this, they modified it into what the stitchy bus actually looks like, and I've downloaded that picture. So all I have is a picture of what their adjustments are. So I'm going to have to work on that. So also between today and tomorrow night, I'm hoping to get the bus in as well. Because then what's left to do for library stitching is all I have to do is get the house done. And I want to have, this is a piece that I have targeted that this is going to be finished in 2022, the year that I did go to StitchCon. So if I make that progress and get that in, because I didn't get as much stitching done at the library as I wanted, and when I came home I worked on a couple of other things. It should have been bus stitching and it turned into other things, so I need to get that done. And then I'll just have to, I've got to start on the house, but just get the rest of the house completed, and then that's going to be done this year as well, which will feel great. It might actually turn into a fully finished object before the end of the year if I do a decent job. Check back later. Famous last words. So the interesting library story, because we have a get-together once a month. We had an interesting occurrence this week. So there was, we're stitching in the room that we have reserved at the library, and there is a glass wall between the room and the rest of the library. So it is not uncommon for other patrons of the library who are walking by to, as many people do when you walk past a room that has a bunch of people in it, you sort of look at what's happening in the room. No big surprise. Anyway, so this lady, walked by and looked in, and, no big deal. And a while later she walked by, so she walked by once, she walked by in the other direction. I didn't think anything of it. You came in, you did something in the library, and now you were going back. Didn't think anything of it. She came by a third time, and she was looking, there's a little screen on the room that shows who's got the room booked. And it said City Stitcher, because that's what I book it under. And, so she kind of looked at looked at what was on the screen and, you know, walked by again. And I went, okay, well, that's less typical for people who are walking by. But, you know, okay, you know, just interested or whatever. She came by a fourth time and she was just straight up standing in front of the glass looking at us. So, you know, I motioned her to come in, and she came in and she wanted to know what we were doing, and she was looking at things, and she's said she, you know, we asked her if she knew about cross stitching and if she did stitching, and she said she had seen stitching and she'd always wanted to learn. And so she's given me her email address. She's been added onto my list. She will hopefully be coming to our get-togethers. We had one of the ladies had brought some stuff that she was destashing, so we actually got to send her home with a free kit. You know, she's like, how much do I owe you? I can pay you for this. And we're like, no, like the stuff that's here on all this stuff that's sitting here on the table is for free. It's just someone wanting it anyway. So it will be very interesting. She, you know, very happily gave her email address over. So hopefully she'll be coming to some of our get-togethers. And we were talking about it after she had left, sort of saying we should probably put a little bit of a sign on the door saying, are you interested in cross stitch? If so, stop in. So we may be coming up with some, you know, project ideas for people who are maybe wanting to learn and just swinging by the library. So stay tuned to see new adventures in library stitching. But yeah, we were really thrilled that she'd walked by, and then finally, you know, made herself known and invited in, and hopefully will be joining our group and learning more about stitching, which will be awesome. All right, let's get into stashquisitions. Now, I've had a number of orders and I'm sort of doling them out, you know, a little bit of a time, just because, you know, otherwise it gets long. Alrighty. So, these are some items from Traditional Stitches, because I am working on kitting up my 5-year plan. So I did need some stretcher bars. I've got some 15-inch stretcher bars and a 13-inch stretcher bar. I do need a 10-inch stretcher bar, which they did not have in stock. And I, you know, measured all of the ones that I had at home, and none of them were the right ones. So I've got one more left on order with them. It's not happening imminently, so whenever it comes in, it will be fine. This gets a little more interesting. So I did go, when I went to pick up those items from Traditional Stitches last week, I did go with a list of all the classic colorworks I was missing for my 2023 stitching plan. And I think they had all but one. So I got everything I needed. So this takes all of my classic colorworks from those thread lists that I was building for my 2023 prep list. This should knock just about everything off of that list. So yeah, it's really great that I'm doing the video this week, because now that I've done this, these can all go into their 2023 project bags, and so I can do another little assessment and make sure that we're as close to being fully kitted for 2023 as I'm expecting. I did pick up a spool of Kreinik. I actually have a project in the 5-year plan. It needed 2 spools. This is number 12 braid, number 3280. It calls for 2 spools, and I only had 1. So yeah, I went there, they had it. That was great. I'm just looking at what I've got over here. I also picked up 1 Weeks Dye Works, 1 Gast, and 1 Belle Soie. These are also for 2023 projects. I picked up another one of these 5-inch sewing and quilting needle grippers by Tooltron. I think it's Tooltron. I don't know why I think that. I'm pretty sure it's Tooltron. Anyway, so this is what they look like. I do end up using these more frequently when I'm working on canvas work pieces, and there are canvas work pieces in my 5-year plan. So I just decided I needed another one. Better safe than sorry. Better more tools than less. All right. I also, last week I showed these, I picked up these cottage garden threads for Palace of the Winds. And one of the things I wanted to do while I was there was I wanted to look at the gray fabrics. You know, once I had the fibers in hand. So step number one is I'd ordered the fibers just because I wanted to see if I actually liked them. And then I needed to, I wanted to do them on a gray fabric, but I needed to see the grays. So this is, I'm having a hard time juggling this. Just a sec. Let me get it organized. So this is the gray that I chose. I pulled out 3 separate ones, you know, and then of course I asked for opinions from the people in the store. And in fact, it was funny because someone sort of said, oh, I've got a really great gray. Let me just go get a piece of that. And, you know, I think I've got an option for you that you don't have already pulled. And they went and they pulled their choice, brought it out to the table and laid it down, and we all went, okay, so that's brown. They're like, okay, well, in my head, I always think of this as gray. Anyway, so this is my choice. This is Fox and Rabbit Prehistoric. This is a 40, yeah, I know I said that, 40 count linen. And the reason why I'm doing this on 40 count, one is because it requires less thread, because I'm only going to need 1 strand. And therefore, you know, when you get into 32 and 28 for Palace of the Winds, you're talking a lot of skeins of these cottage garden threads, and that cost ramps up. So I decided I was going to go to 40 count. Yes, I'm going to need magnification. It'll be fine. But this is Fox and Rabbit Prehistoric. Also on 40 count, it means that it will fit on a fat quarter. If you're doing it on 32 or 28, you need more than a fat quarter for Palace of the Winds to fit. So that was also a driver to get it into the land of 40 count. Now I have done some stitching on 40 count, so I can do it. I don't know that it's my favorite count to stitch on, but maybe as I do more on 40 count, you know, maybe it's just experience will make it easier for me. But I went from a cost perspective. It was going to be cheaper for me to do it on 40 count than by quite a bit than to do it on 28 or 32 count. So that got picked up. And of course, while you're in any shop and they've got good grief, and they've got a sale table, I stopped by the sale table. So Stone Street Stitchworks, this is Schoolhouse Quaker. I had been looking at this and blah blah blah. Anyway, it was on sale, so I decided it was going to come home. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to do it in this color palette. The school is probably going to stay a red brick school, but probably everything around it is probably going to change somewhat whenever that comes up in the plan. And I also picked up this, it's a needle slide and needle minder. It says, I stitch past my bedtime. This is a Zappy Dots product as well. And quite frankly, I didn't get it so much for the the needle case is the fact that there's a needle minder in there, and it says just one more stitch. So I picked that up as well. Those are my stash acquisitions for this week. Yes, there are more stash acquisitions. You'll see them over the coming weeks. I'm looking at my collection over there going, yeah, there's going to be some stash acquisition showing, you know, I think for each of the next weeks through, you know, well, knowing me, probably through the end of November. All right. With that, let's get into the topic. So the topic for today is kitted but not committed, part 1. And that phraseology, kitted but not committed, I am totally getting from Deb the stocking stitcher, Deb the traveling stocking stitcher. She has a YouTube channel, check her out. She did say that she was totally fine if I borrowed it, which was very kind of her. So I'm using her phraseology, kitted but not committed. So this is just, the projects I'm going to show you are things that I've got kitted up sitting in my drawers. These are projects that I've got kitted up, but they do not appear in the 5-year plan. So even though they're kitted up, at the moment, they are not in the 5-year plan for actually getting any stitches worked on them. So what have I got going? So this is a design by Full Circle Designs. I will take it out of the bag. So pumpkin patch. This calls for Gentle Art, predominantly Gentle Arts threads and 1 Week's Dye Works. I've got it kitted up. I've got all the specialty threads, and I've got a piece of goodness knows what this is. I did a really good job. It's not even labeled. But it is cut, it is serged, it is ready to go. I think this was originally supposed to be done this year, but it got bumped for Bittersweet Pumpkins. When I bought the chart, it also came with the button and bead pack for it as well. So again, this is Full Circle Designs pumpkin patch. Yes, there might be some crinkling going on while we work our way through this. So this one is what's it called? 31st by Hands On Design. So it's just this pin cushion. The chart, of course, comes with the purple plaid felt to put on the top. I, not surprisingly, have so I've got the black fabric, which is, so I've got it on 28 count black Jobelin. Yeah, the model stitch for this was done on 28 count black linen. So I've got 28 count black Jobelin is what I've got. Of course, is it's a fat 1/8. 18 by 13 and a half, and there are all of the weeks that are called for. I think it's, yes, all of the called for. There is a DMC that's called for in this chart, and I haven't, if DMC that's called for in the charts, I don't necessarily, I'm just thinking of what's in the basket. I don't normally pull them, you know, certainly for something like this one, because, you know, it's going to be whatever. and I'll just pull it at the time that I'm working. But, so I've got the chart, the fabric, the floss ready to go. This does not appear in my 5-year stitching plan. All right, this collection requires a little bit of explanation. So all of the called for fibers for these charts are DMC, so I have not yet pulled them. But I, being me, have made a chart, a list of all the things. So this is a series of snowman charts by sisters and best friends. So this is Buddies. And I have the, oh, something's gone off. Yeah, there we go. It's like, so here's the chart. This is the fabric that I've pulled for it, which of course I was not smart enough to actually, I don't know what it's labeled as. Oh, I do. This is hand-dyed Jobeland, 28 count Bluebell. So I got a piece of fabric and cut it down for all of this. Okay, good. I kept the tag, helpful. So 28 count Bluebell Jobeland. That's what that looks like. That's the one that I am going to be doing Buddies on. And so sitting in a Ziploc bag labeled saying this is the piece that's been cut for Buddies because they're not all the same size. And this is the button pack. The button pack for that particular chart. They reside together, not surprisingly. So that's Buddies. And this is Friends. I don't think the Bluebell is what they actually called for. What did they do theirs on? Oh, Crossed Wing Collection Snow Squall is what they actually did the model stitch on. But here is my, so this is Friends. There's my Friends fabric and the button pack for that. Then I have Pals. So they're all going to be done on the same fabric. They've got their button packs in with them. All by Sisters and Best Friends. And then this one is called Tess and Buddy. No, Tess and Teddy. Can't read. I'm looking at this one going, where? Like, wait a minute, where is the button pack? Okay, because I know that they were all in there, so there's the button pack for that one. Whew, had a momentary notice going like, wait a minute. So I don't know how readily these are available. I don't know if they're still available. Amy Brooken is part of Sisters and Best Friends. So it's two sisters, of which Amy Brooken is one of them. So that's Tess and Teddy. So all the fabric for that is cut, serged. Their button packs are there with them, and I have a master. So they live in one project bag, and I've got a master list of all the DMC that are called for all of them, and which ones of them they're being used in. These are not currently sitting in the 5-year plan. You're going to hear that a lot. All right, next up. From Glendon Place, Plum Pudding. I've seen this stitched. It's lovely, lovely, lovely. So there's the chart. The fabric is cut. I don't remember what count it is, but it is a white opalescent, is what I will be stitching it on. I don't think that's what the called for is. I think I ended up choosing the white opalescent because the one that I saw stitched in person was stitched on the white opalescent and it looked lovely. The called for fabric is 28 count Sprite Cashel linen by Picture This Plus is what the model was stitched on. Like I say, I'm going to do it on white opalescent, and I have all of the called for dinky dyes, multiple skeins of that, and this is the bead pack, and technically it called for a Sullivan's thread, which I think this is just being used to attach the beads with, so this is probably not going to be used in mine at all, but I'll have to confirm that. It was on the called for fibers, which is why I ended up getting it, but I think at the end of the day it's only being used to attach the beads, which means it won't be used on this one, because I'm, you know, clearly that would be noticeable on white. But yeah, so fabric, beads, specialty fibers, chart. Not in the 5-year plan, but it is stunning. This is a lovely piece. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, next up. Okay, this is actually not completely, kitted. So this is Jingle All the Way by Brenda Gervais, which now that I'm looking at it, I should probably pull some of these. So the called for threads are Weeks Dye Works, Gentle Arts, and Classic Color Works. So this is barely kitted. And the other one that's in there is Candy Cane Wishes as well. Now these are sitting in the same bag because the called for fabrics is 40 count Weeks Dye Works linen in Confederate Gray and 40 count R&R linen in Salt Marsh Green. So the 40 count, you know, blah, blah, blah. So what I ended up doing is I ended up getting a 20 count. So this is way greener, which is totally fine. Some of those colors may need to change, but I wanted to do them on the same fabric. So it's going to be this green. This is 20 count mint green Zweigart Lugana, which means 20 count over 1 will end up being the same size as 40 count over 2. So this is, I've got a fat quarter in the bag. I should probably pull the threads in, because it may mean that some of these greens need to change or whatever, but I want to do them on the same background. So that's a sort of kitted and clearly not committed remotely. So this is from Shepherd's Bush. This is called Santa Berry Pudding. Because you know I don't do things on the called for. The called for fabric on this is 16 count alabaster heather field. That's what the model was stitched on. That's not what I'm going to be stitching mine on. Mine is going to be stitched on wait for this. An unknown blue. I don't have any fabric information on this. I did buy it at the same time that I bought the chart. So it is much bluer in person. It's looking very dull gray on camera. Let's see if it's a little closer. It's bluer than what it's looking like. It's quite heathered. Yes, I don't have a tag of any sort that goes with this. So that's the fabric, and because it's, you know, whatever, 16 count, whatever, these are the called for Caron impressions. Just gonna see if I can get them set up here. And DMC Pearl Cotton 5s, so that you only need to use one strand as you're stitching it. So I'm taking some fluff off. So that's the palette. And the big bead button pack that goes along with that. Now, Dina from Half Stitch Cross Stitch stitched this one as well, but she didn't read carefully the instructions, and so she had a little bit of problem when she got her beads, because I think it's stitched on 16 count over 2. I'm not going to clarify that because anyway, I think it's stitched over 2, and she had just sort of went 16 count, 32 count, and, you know, did it like if it did it on something as if it was over, you know, on 16 count over 1, and I think it's over 2, and then she had some problems getting her beads to fit. But I kitted this up at the store, so whatever it is, I'm pretty sure it's over 2, which really makes it 8 count, which is why you're using, you know, Caron impressions and the DMC Pearl Cottons to get the coverage that you need. So it was interesting when I was watching Dina do hers, because as she, you know, when she pulled it out, I'm like, oh, I have that, and I have that kitted, and I still like it. It just isn't high enough up on the list for me to work on yet. And this one even has, there's a couple of needles that clearly, when I was kitting this up, I think the shop owner gave the needles to me. So I walked home with a complete project. Actually, that one is not. Okay. Then, so this is, so this next one, this is out of print. This is the Desiderata sampler by Indigo Rose. I'm trying, there you go. So Letitia, the crafty curator, worked on this. It looks stunning. Stunning, stunning, stunning. This one, I have all of the fibers pulled. I don't have any fabric in there. I think the model was stitched on, you know, white, so that's one again where I don't necessarily feel the need to pull the white fabric right off the get-go. But Letitia's was lovely. Lovely, 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 lovely. Anyway, this is also, so this is not sitting in the 5-year plan because until I get Tapestry of Life done, I'm not adding another one that's very, very wordy. And based on how fast Tapestry of Life is progressing these days, it's going to be a long time before that gets one gets finished. So Tapestry of Life has to get finished before this one has a remote chance of showing up in the 5-year list. This last one is, you're gonna laugh at. This is a full coverage piece. Now this is another one where I, you know, nope. I was gonna say, I didn't think I had the fabric pulled. I did have the fabric pulled. So this is a Heaven and Earth Designs, full coverage. Sorry, crinkle, crinkle, crinkle. This is called Mini Park Cafe. I think it would be lovely. Lovely, lovely. The stitch count on this is 340 wide by 226 high. Now, as it's full coverage, you know, the fabric is white, and it's a big piece. The fabric is white, and ooh, there's no ring. I should rectify that. This is one where I actually did get all the DMC. So all the DMC has been pulled for this. They're all sitting in floss away bags, but not on a project ring. If I'd been smart, I would have looked at that. And the reason why I bought them separately and they're all sitting in there is because, like many a full coverage piece, this, I'm just trying to find the piece of paper. You know, as with all Heaven and Earth, they give you the list and they tell you how many skeins of each color you need. And, like, don't kid yourself, you know, boom, boom, there's, you know, a lot of colors, a lot of colors. So I specifically went to the store, and I think it's because I had a coupon where it was like a really good number off your entire purchase at Michael's, which you don't seem to get those very frequently anymore. And so I took the full list of the DMCs and I bought all the DMCs for these and put them in their floss away bags. So one of these days, I watch Carolyn Zook, and you know, working on, she's got multiple full coverage pieces. I watch Sarah, the Stitchin' Mommy, who's working on multiple full coverage pieces, and I look at them and I go, oh, I should work on a full coverage piece. And then I look at the whips that I've already got going and went, I've got to make a really good dent in clearing up some of my backlog of whips. And so this one probably isn't going to come out until Jerusalem gets finished. So once Jerusalem gets finished, this is a very, very strong contender to come in. I think it would be, I think it's lovely. I don't remember where I stumbled across this, but I just went, yep, that's me. I'm with other people. Like, I actually love looking at snow. I'm to a certain degree, I'm glad I live in a place where you actually experience all of the seasons, that there are distinct differences between summer and winter. You know, there are some places the only difference between summer and winter is summer, you know, there's a lot of rain, and winter there's not a lot of rain. I'm actually, or anyway, whatever. Like, I'm actually okay that I live, you can actually feel the seasons coming and going. Don't get me wrong, you're going to hear me complain about cold and bitter cold and blah. The streets are horrendous. I'm with everybody else. That's the part I don't like. I like having snow for Christmas. You know, I like looking at the mountains and having snow-capped mountains. You know, it's nice to look at as long as it's nice to look at as long as you're inside and warm. So on a bright, sunshiny winter day, this room can still be like 20, 23 degrees Celsius, while outside it's, you know, like -2 and snowy and things. Anyway, but yeah, one of these. After Jerusalem, this is a contender, which is why this is not in the 5-year plan, because I have no idea how long it's going to take me to get through Jerusalem, because we're only on the 2nd page. We're on the 2nd page, heading into page 3 of, I want to say, what, 8? So yeah, long way to go on that one. So that one's got chart, fabric, and the DMC, which is why I kind of said, like, I don't normally pull the DMC, but the DMC for this one is entirely pulled and sitting in the project bag, waiting for that magic time that it's going to get pulled out. And with that, that's all that I've got for you this week. Yes, I'm calling it Kitted but not committed part 1. I don't know how many parts they're going to be. These are just sort of random episodes as I feel like pulling things out as I'm going through things and sharing them. So I don't know how many parts they're going to be. You know, don't look for part 2 anytime soon. I don't think part 2 is going to occur this year. Part 2 might occur next year at some point, but anyway, so it'll just be, you know, a random sampling of things that I've got committed sitting in my stash. So with that, I hope everybody's had a good week. Today, of course, being, given that it is October 30th, it is the night before Halloween. So one of my tasks tonight is to get out my Halloween. I've got a big pumpkin box that I use to hand out my treats with. The treats are bought. They're sitting by the front door. I just need to get the pumpkin box out and get everything set up so that I am ready to go. It's always interesting to see how many kids come. It can be anywhere between 45 and 75 kids come by my house. So we'll see what's happening this year. So I hope everybody's had a good week. I hope everybody's staying safe. As always, thinking of the people of the Ukraine. I was clearly thinking of the people of the Ukraine when they were announcing the winner of Honens, because he was Ukrainian. Anyway, so thinking about them, you know, and as always, thinking about a lot of things that are happening around the globe. There's always, unfortunately, there's always not great things happening around the world. So safety first, safety first, safety first. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying healthy. I hope you're finding some time to do your stitching, and that your stitching is bringing you joy, peace, a mental health break, stress relief, a diversion, anything that you need it to be. And I hope that you're finding some time to get some stitches in. As I'm finding, it's always better to do some stitches than no stitches, although I missed that night at the Honens. Anyway, with that, I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.